institution-based system of class evaluation. Okay? So the working group was set up in June. In fact, we've only had one meeting so far, but the objective of the working group is to develop and use institutional system-wide system of class evaluation for all taught classes, so that's undergraduate and postgraduate. Okay. So one of the motivations for this is to provide you all with a consistent approach, because I believe those of you in different departments are probably seeing different ways of class evaluation. If you do a joint degree across different faculties, you're probably getting a completely different methods of being able to provide feedback on classes. Okay. So the outcome, which is going to be difficult because it has the word agreement, is we want to agree on implementing an institution-wide system of class evaluations. We need to agree as to which questions are going to be most appropriate, how it's going to be implemented. So are we going to have an online system which ties into My Place or other software? Is it going to be paper-based? Is it going to be both? We also need to think about when and how often these surveys are going to take place. So the working group consists of, there's a mixture of academics and technical support. So there's one academic member from each of the faculties. Rebecca is on the working group. And then we have the technical support people, so people from the learning technology enhancement team, the people who look after My Place, somebody who was involved in setting up questionnaires on Spider. We also have people from CAPEL and a member of the student survey team. Now, why do we need this? Okay, the current situation, I think all departments and faculties are doing this in their own way. Okay, so some of you will get paper questionnaires, some of you will get online questionnaires, some of you will get them at the end of the semester, some of you will get these in the middle, some of you might get them at both. Okay, so there's a different, there's a mixture of different ways of delivering this. The other thing which differs is the way that faculties and departments actually process the results of the evaluations. So some faculties and departments will provide feedback of the class evaluations to the student. So I believe naval architecture and marine engineering will provide an edited summary of the results of the surveys. Okay. So some provide feedback to students at the departmental level. Some individual lecturers may provide feedback, others may not. Okay. The results may or may not be used to inform course or class reviews. So most departments at the end of each academic year will have a review process where they look at their existing classes to see what went wrong. They look at things like pass rates, and then they'll look at attendance, and then they'll look at student feedback in the form of class evaluation results. So the idea is at the end of the year we can reflect and hopefully improve for future years. However, you won't necessarily see the results of this. For you it will be too late because you will be moving on into the next year, and so it's only your following year cohorts that will experience any changes that have been made. And then finally, some departments use the information for staff performance reviews. So just to give you an example, because the original working group was set up in response to a paper written by the student survey team, and they were very taken by the approach used by naval architecture and marine engineering. Okay, so as you said earlier, you have an online system at the end of each semester, and it covers all of the classes that you take as a student. Okay, as you say, there's an incentive. I think, was it a laptop prize?
A laptop.
Yeah, exactly. So anyone who didn't or who hasn't completed the survey, I believe reminders are sent at regular intervals to prompt this. Okay, so this is kind of quite a good approach, and I think the uptake of, the number of respondents is impressively high. So despite you having an online system, so online systems notoriously have low response rates, your department has a very good uptake of respondents, which is great. So I believe that in naval architecture and marine engineering, the head of department will then talk to the staff based on the results of their class evaluation. Okay, and not only do they do that, but I believe they also provide you with edited summaries of the outcomes of the surveys. So other departments, I think Civs and Physics have an online questionnaire, which is a mixture of core and additional questions, which is generated, it was generated automatically using Spider. Their response rate apparently was pretty low, it was in the 20% region. Okay. So you can see there's a variety of approaches. I have asked, as chair of working group, I've been asking departments to provide examples of their surveys, and I'm seeing loads of different formats, paper questionnaires, online questionnaires. It's interesting the different ways this is being done, sort of implemented. Now the working group agreed that the primary purpose of this should be for you, the students. Okay, we want to improve your learning experience. Okay, so we need you to provide us feedback to help us to be more effective as lecturers. So the second point is obviously lecturers need to know what they need to improve upon. They need to know what's going well as well, because identifying good practice is something that we're interested, because if one lecturer gets, is doing things well, then other lecturers would like to learn from the way the lecturers approach this. Okay. I'm also interested in how this can help student representatives, because through speaking to Rebecca, I discovered that she circulates her own survey of her cohort so that she can identify issues to be raised at staff student committees. Okay. Now Rebecca seems to have an incredibly good response rate to her surveys. She said that she got 100% response. Okay. Now, what I want to ask you is there a way that somehow these two systems can be combined? Because, it's obviously going to be overkill for students if they're being surveyed both by their reps and by the class lecturers, especially if some of the questions are the same. So that's one aspect that I would like you to explore later in your discussion group, if you would. So these two are more for, so as I said before, with departments, the results of this can be used to change or modify classes in future years. And then obviously at the institutional level, the university needs to produce institutional reports. We get kind of assessed every now and again, the ELIR, the enhancement-led institutional review, which happens every few years. For those purposes, it would be good if we could collect data across all classes within the institution. Okay, so in the discussion group, which is going to follow my talk, I think the set of questions reflect on three different areas. So the first area is I'd be really interested to find out what your current experience of class evaluations actually is. Do you find them meaningful? Do you find that you can't be bothered, or your students, your fellow students can't be bothered to fill them out because they don't feel that it's making any difference to the way things are done? What are your feelings? Are they effective? If they aren't effective, can they be made more effective? So, if it could be that if students knew that they were going to get a report on the actions or the outcome of the evaluation survey, and if that their views were taken into account, that they may then engage more. So are they effective? Can they be made more effective? And obviously, as a lecturer, it's really useful for me to have as many people responding to the surveys as possible. If you only have a 20% response rate, you don't know whether that 20% is a biased sample or not. You know, they might all hate you, they might love you, but you don't get a balanced view across the cohort. So what I want to know is, how can we get students more engaged with this process? Should we be using class evaluations at all, or are there better ways of providing lecturers with more instant feedback about the classes? Okay. And then obviously there are issues like quantitative versus qualitative. Okay. Now my experience is that the quantitative questions are easy for students to answer, because these are questions of how do you rate this class? Do you like this class? Please tick 1 to 5, where 5 is you like it, 1 is you dislike it. So those questions, we get a good uptake because I think they're easy to complete. So you just simply circle it. However, although a numeric value is reasonably interesting, I mean, obviously I don't want to see a load of 1s, something's very wrong if 1 is bad, okay? For me, it's the qualitative questions which are the most useful. And these are the ones that students tend not to bother with because they have to sort of write something and think about it. So, but if I can be told, you don't like my presentation style, why you can't see the stuff on the whiteboard or anything like that, it's nice to actually have that written down so that this is my personal experience, so that I can reflect on it. So I think the working group said that if we go ahead with an institution-wide system, we are going to have to do it in a way where there are core questions, but with the facility for lecturers to add their own additional questions. Because I think an argument was made that it's very difficult to have a one-size-fits-all across the institution. Okay. So this last point was raised by one of the vice deans in the engineering department. He would like to see questions that encourage you as students to reflect on the quality of learning. So instead of saying what do you like most, what do you like the least, it's what aspects of the course helped you to learn the material. Okay. In particular, this is of interest to us because if a lecturer is doing something which it helps students to learn, then again we would like to share that as good practice amongst each other. So there's the format question, should we use paper, online or both? And I sort of drew attention to this earlier. Paper, I get quite a benefit. I get a reasonable rate if I hand it out in lectures, because it obviously depends on how many people turn up to the lecturer, but it's something that you can do in the lectures. I don't make it compulsory. I just put a box at the end and students can throw, they can put their form in or not as they please. They can leave it blank if they want to. So from my personal point of view, I'm not interested in forcing people to do this, because I know that the results could be distorted as a result of that. So how often should these things be conducted? If it's done mid-module, it gives us a chance to change before you have finished the course. Some people actually set questionnaires at the very end of the course, actually after the exams have taken place, so that you can even comment on the whole process, including the examination. Okay. Now this point here, how and when should the results and actions be reported to students? What would you like to see us do to give you more feedback about the steps we will take to change or improve or do something about the courses? Okay. What information would you like? And then I've drawn upon the second from bottom point, is would it be useful for the results of this to be made available to class reps so that you can take the information along to the staff-student or student-staff liaison committee meetings. And then finally, the last question is, what other effective means of obtaining feedback could be used? So some of my colleagues use 1-minute papers where they circulate them during the lecture and ask, what is the thing that you found least easy to understand? What point did you, what did you find easy to understand, and so on. Somebody else said that in a previous institution, when she lectured, after she gave a lecture, one of her colleagues would go and speak to the students informally, but without her being there, and her colleague would get feedback from the students about the way she was delivering the class. Could this be a viable solution? Okay, so to end then, the key point is the primary purpose of developing this system is to help to improve your learning experience. So as chairman of the working group, I really welcome your input and support. So all of the discussion summaries are going to be fed back to me, and I'll be really interested to see what you have to say, Kate. We are going to take this into account before we move on with the more detailed specifications. So thank you very much for listening, and I really welcome any views that you have on this subject. Thank you.